Chapter 692. Emil, Trump could not help but frown as he asked, "Are you talking about that old man who likes to brag to the point that he doesn't even remember his last name just because he has a little money?" Humphrey nodded before he said, "Yes. My support for you alone won't be enough. When the other guests arrive later, you'll have to try to win the support of the president and the other directors. That way, you might actually have a chance to defeat Emil in the internal voting and become the executive director instead. Do you understand what I'm saying?" Trump nodded hurriedly as he said sincerely, "Brother Humphrey, thank you for your sincere advice. You're really inspiring. Thank you so much." Humphrey smiled slightly before he said, "Brother, why are you being so polite with me?" After that, Humphrey glanced at the time on his watch before he said, "The chairman and the rest of the guests will also be here soon. Let's wait for them at the door. That way, it will seem that you are more sincere today." Trump nodded repeatedly and he did not dare to return to his seat anymore. At this time, Trump walked to the door of the private room with Humphrey and they both stood there as they waited for the appearance of the president and the other directors of the Calligraphy and Painting Association. After a short while, some of the people from the Calligraphy and Painting Association arrived one after the other. At this time, an old man arrived at the door of the private room and there were many people surrounding him like the stars around the moon. When Humphrey saw the old man, he immediately stepped forward before he smiled and said, "President." Trump also hurriedly followed after Humphrey as he said respectfully, "Mr. Ralph, you are here." Mr. Ralph nodded slightly as he pretended to complain, "Trump, look at you. Why did you create such a big scene? Don't you know that the Calligraphy and Painting Association pays attention to simplicity? You should have just hosted the dinner at a regular restaurant instead. Why did you bother to book a private room at Black Pepper?" Even though the president said this and although it sounded like he was blaming Trump for overdoing it, he was only being polite on the surface. That was not what he was thinking in his heart. If Trump had really arranged for them to have dinner at a regular restaurant, then he would not even have made an appearance here today. Moreover, Mr. Ralph would also have avoided having any contact with Trump in the future. At this time, Trump quickly replied, "Every one of my guests here today are leaders. Since all the leaders are here, how can I be so casual or negligent then?" After that, Trump laughed before he said, "Since everyone has already arrived, then why don't we take a seat inside the room?" Mr. Ralph nodded slightly before he said, "Okay. Everyone, come and have a seat." At this moment, a middle-aged man who had been following silently behind Mr. Ralph suddenly snorted as he said, "Trump, how can you book the cheapest bronze room in Black Pepper when you're hosting a dinner here tonight? Don't you think that you are being a little disrespectful towards the president and all the other directors?" The expression on Trump's face changed as soon as he saw the other party. After that, Trump said, "Emil, I invited the president and everyone else here for dinner tonight, but I did not invite you here. So, what are you doing here tonight? Besides that, whatever private room I booked has nothing to do with you. Who gave you the right to make such irresponsible remarks here?" The person standing in front of him was none other than his biggest competitor for the position of the executive director, Emil. Emil replied contemptuously, "You can't say that. Do you know the status of the president and the rest of the directors here today?" After that, Emil snorted before he said, "Do you really think that no one knows your purpose for inviting everyone to dinner here today? Isn't it just because you're eyeing the position of the executive director in the Calligraphy and Painting Association? Do you really think that you can get the president and the other directors to support and vote for you just because you've booked the cheapest bronze room here tonight? You are obviously too insincere. You're simply treating everyone like country bumpkins who have never seen the world before." After he was done speaking, Emil looked at everyone before he smiled and said, "How can a bronze room possibly be worthy of people of your statuses? In order to show my respect to the president and all of the directors, I've specially booked a gold room upstairs today. Why don't we move over to the room that I've booked for dinner tonight instead?"